Ready for a deep dive that might just bend your mind a little? We're taking a plunge into Dolores Cannon's The Custodians.
Ooh, okay. And jumping right into those excerpts you were so captivated by. This isn't your typical alien encounter story.
No, not at all. This goes way beyond spaceships and little green men. We're talking about hidden memories, consciousness, and a whole universe of possibilities we can barely even imagine.
What I find so fascinating about Cannon is that she didn't even start out trying to investigate UFOs or anything like that.
Right. She wasn't setting out to prove or disprove alien encounters.
Exactly. She was a past life regressionist. Hypnosis was her thing.
Focused on unlocking what our own minds could reveal.
Exactly. But then she stumbles into this whole other world because people kept coming to her, convinced they'd had these alien encounters.
And I imagine most people would have dismissed those stories, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But not Cannon. Instead of dismissing them, she uses hypnosis to explore these claims. And that's where things get really wild.
Like finding a secret passage, and hypnosis is the key. So tell me, what's behind door number 1? What's the first thing she uncovers?
Genetic manipulation.
Whoa. Okay, so we're already in deep.
A lot of her subjects, under hypnosis, start describing these beings, these aliens, as custodians. Like they're caretakers in this long-range experiment with us, with humanity.
Okay, so the word caretaker kind of implies good intentions, right? Like they're looking out for us.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But not all of the regressions were so rosy.
Oh.
Some of them painted a much more, let's just say, a much more complex picture of what might be going on. Like maybe these beings don't have our best interests at heart after all.
Okay, so some serious trust issues with our cosmic caretakers. And were there any specific details from these regressions that really stuck out?
One that really struck me was this whole thing about a meteor strike. Apparently, this meteor, it throws a major wrench into the custodians' whole plan.
Talk about a cosmic curveball. Did they say why? What was so significant about this meteor?
Well, according to some of the regressions, this meteor is what introduced disease to humanity.
Oh, wow. So not exactly the helping hand we might have hoped for.
Right. It really makes you question everything, doesn't it?
It definitely throws a wrench into those typical aliens are here to save us narratives, that's for sure. But speaking of aliens, let's talk about the beings themselves. I mean, when you say the word alien, everyone pictures something different.
Exactly. And that's what I love about Cannon's work. It's not just these stereotypical gray aliens with big eyes. She uncovers this whole diverse cast of beings, each with their own unique characteristics.
Yeah, and some of them sound pretty amazing. Like, for example, the Watchers. I was fascinated by their description. These humanoid beings who are part of this whole galactic federation that Earth is supposedly going to join. Sounds like we're up for a cosmic promotion.
Right. It really hints at this whole other level of order, a cosmic hierarchy that we're just starting to grasp.
It's mind-blowing. But here's the thing I don't get. If these advanced beings are calling the shots, if they're so invested in humanity, why all the secrecy? Why not just land on the White House lawn and get this intergalactic party started?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this is where Cannon's research takes another fascinating turn.
Okay, I'm all ears. Lay it on me.
Her subjects, under hypnosis, they describe these beings as existing in different dimensions, vibrating at different frequencies.
Whoa, okay, so we're talking about beings that are literally on a different wavelength? But how does that even work?
Well, think of it like this.
Okay.
Imagine trying to explain the internet to someone living in the Stone Age. They just don't have the framework to comprehend it, right? It's like their reality operates on a whole different level of technology, a different level of understanding.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're dealing with here.
So it's not just a physical distance we're talking about. It's a completely different level of existence.
Exactly. And get this, according to Cannon subjects, interacting with us, with our lower vibrational frequency, it actually requires them to lower their own vibrations, which they describe as incredibly painful.
So it's not just that they're choosing to be elusive. It's like trying to have a conversation with us. It literally hurts them.
That's what they describe, yes.
Yeah.
And it really makes you question, how much are we actually capable of perceiving? What if our reality is just a tiny sliver of what's actually out there?
It's a mind-blowing concept. But if our vibrations are so different, how do these encounters even happen?
That's where it gets even more interesting. Cannon suggests that our own beliefs and intentions might actually play a role.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying that our minds can somehow influence whether or not we have these extraterrestrial encounters?
That's exactly what she suggests.
Oh.
According to Cannon, the more willing someone is to believe in the possibility of extraterrestrial contact, the more likely they are to experience it.
So it's like our minds are filters, and what we choose to believe directly impacts what we're able to experience.
It's a powerful idea.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, what else are we blocking out because we don't believe it's possible?
Wow. Okay, so we're not just talking about passive observation here. We're talking about active participation. Our minds are shaping the reality we experience. But if our minds can block these encounters, could they also be the key to remembering them? Like, what about our dreams? Could that be a back door to these other realms?
You're thinking along the same lines as Cannon. She actually explores that in depth, this idea of dreams being a conduit, a way for these beings to communicate with us, and maybe even a way for us to access those hidden memories.
It's like our brains become these cosmic radios while we're sleeping, picking up signals from other dimensions.
Exactly. And it's not just about receiving messages either. It's about retrieving lost memories.
Like that story you shared about the woman who, under hypnosis, recalled being taken aboard a spacecraft as a child, but she had always dismissed those memories as just nightmares.
It's incredible, right? And what's even more amazing is the level of detail Cannon was able to capture. She wasn't just jotting down vague impressions, she was recording everything.
Mm.
Smells, sounds, even the emotional states of her subjects.
Those sensory details are what really bring these accounts to life, don't they? Like that one excerpt you mentioned where someone described this slimy, rotten smell that they encountered during an alien encounter.
Yes. And that smell, it's not like anything they'd ever encountered on Earth. It was otherworldly. And those specific details, they really add a layer of realism to these accounts.
It's not just about what they saw. It's about what they felt, what they smelled, what they heard. It creates a much more visceral experience. But, speaking of details, one thing I kept noticing in the excerpts you shared was how often Cannon's subjects commented on her genuine curiosity and her desire for knowledge. Do you think that played a role in their willingness to share their experiences with her?
Absolutely. These beings, they seem to be drawn to individuals with pure intentions, people who are genuinely seeking understanding.
It's like they were vetting her, making sure she was approaching this with the right mindset, the right heart.
And it wasn't just about what she knew. It was about how she approached the unknown. Her open-mindedness, her willingness to consider possibilities outside of the mainstream, that's what made her a suitable conduit for this information.
She was willing to go there, to ask the tough questions, to challenge her own beliefs.
Exactly, and that fearlessness, that openness, it seems to have been a crucial factor in her ability to access these extraordinary experiences.
Mm.
But it also raises some ethical questions, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. If these beings are choosing who to contact, who to reveal themselves to, who are they to decide? It kind of feels like a cosmic popularity contest. Like, you're cool, you can hang out with the interdimensional beings.
That's a question that Cannon grapples with in her work. And she even draws a comparison between alien intervention and the way humans selectively breed animals.
It's a fascinating and somewhat unsettling comparison. Like, are we just pawns in some grand cosmic experiment? And do we even have a say in the matter?
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Uh,
And it speaks to the much larger question of free will versus determinism.
It's a big one, for sure, and one that I don't think we'll be answering anytime soon. But, for all the unanswered questions, for all the mystery, there's something incredibly hopeful about Cannon's work.
Oh, absolutely.
This idea that we're not alone in the universe, that there are these other beings, these other realms of existence, it just opens up so many possibilities. And even if it scares us a little, even if it challenges everything we thought we knew, it also reminds us that there's so much more to discover, so much more to learn.
And maybe, just maybe, we're not as alone as we sometimes feel.
Okay, we're back. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything we talked about in the first part. It's a lot to take in. But before we go any further down the rabbit hole, I want to go back to this idea that our beliefs and intentions can actually shape our experiences, even when it comes to something as seemingly external as alien contact. It's like, how much control do we really have over our reality?
Right. It really challenges everything we think we know about how the world works. And it raises so many questions, like if our minds are powerful enough to block out these experiences because we don't believe they're possible, does that mean that people who haven't had these encounters, does that mean they just haven't opened their minds enough?
That's what I'm wondering. Is it really that simple? Like, if I just believe hard enough, I'll suddenly start seeing UFOs in my backyard?
Well, if only it were that easy. Cannon acknowledges that it's not always a simple equation of believe it and it will happen. Our minds are complex.
Right.
Our individual psychology, our cultural conditioning, There are countless factors at play, and Cannon even suggests that some of these influences might be karmic in nature.
Okay, now we're getting into some really interesting territory. Karmic influences. So you're saying past lives, cosmic karma, that could all be playing a role in our extraterrestrial encounters.
It's a possibility that some of her subjects actually talk about. They describe these soul contracts, these agreements we make before we're even born to participate in these encounters.
Whoa. Like, we're signing up for a cosmic field trip before we even know what a soul is? But why? What's the purpose of these pre-life agreements?
Well, some of them talk about spiritual growth, about facing challenges in order to evolve. Others mention specific missions, roles they're meant to play in this lifetime.
So it's not just about random encounters, it's about fulfilling a deeper purpose, a soul-level agreement.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder about those who have negative experiences. What if they didn't sign up for this? What if they're caught in something they never agreed to?
That's a tough one. Like, how do you reconcile free will with these soul contracts, especially when it comes to encounters that are, let's face it, often described as terrifying or even traumatic? Does everyone have a choice?
That's a question that Cannon wrestles with throughout her work, and there are no easy answers. But she does suggest that even the difficult experiences, the ones that challenge us to our core, they can serve a higher purpose.
Like a cosmic crash course in personal growth.
Something like that. And she stresses the importance of free will. We always have a choice in how we respond to these experiences.
So we can choose to be victims, to let fear control us, or we can choose to find meaning in the chaos, to grow from it.
Exactly. It's about taking back our power even when it feels like everything's spinning out of control. But I'm curious, with all this talk about consciousness and hidden realms, I can't help but think about the role of technology in all of this. Cannon's work was published decades ago, long before smartphones and the internet were even a thing. Did she ever anticipate the impact these technologies might have on our understanding of these concepts?
It's a fascinating question because, in a way, she was already exploring the frontiers of consciousness with hypnosis, which is, in itself, a kind of technology, right?
Exactly. And she saw it as a tool for bridging the gap between the conscious and subconscious mind, for accessing hidden knowledge and experiences. And I think it's safe to say that she definitely foresaw a future where technology would play an increasingly important role in expanding our awareness.
Like a natural progression from ancient techniques like hypnosis to the cutting-edge technologies of today. I mean, think about it. Virtual reality, artificial intelligence, even quantum computing. We're on the verge of a technological revolution that could fundamentally change our understanding of reality itself.
Absolutely. And in a way, Cannon's work provides this incredible framework for understanding and navigating these advancements because it reminds us that technology at its core is just a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill.
It's all about intention, about remembering that we're the ones in the driver's seat, not the machines.
Exactly. And that's where Cannon's emphasis on personal responsibility comes in. She believed that each of us has a role to play in shaping a better future, not just for ourselves, but for all of humanity.
So it's not enough to just be passive consumers of technology. We need to become conscious creators, using these tools to evolve, to connect, to make the world a better place.
Exactly. And that starts with inner work, with cultivating self-awareness, compassion, and a deep connection to our own inner wisdom. Because when we change ourselves, we change the world.
It's about recognizing that we're not just cogs in a machine, but active participants in this grand cosmic dance of creation. But with all due respect to those who are open to these ideas, what about the skeptics, the ones who say, show me the proof, where's the evidence? How do we bridge that gap?
I think Cannon would say that true knowing, true understanding, it often begins with a question, with a sense of wonder, with a willingness to entertain possibilities that might seem impossible at first glance.
It's about being open to the mystery, even if it makes us uncomfortable or challenges our beliefs.
Exactly. And sometimes the most profound truths, they can't be proven or disproven in a laboratory. They have to be experienced, felt, integrated into the very fabric of our being.
It's about trusting our intuition, that inner voice that whispers, there's more to this than meets the eye. But how do we learn to listen to that voice, especially when it's drowned out by all the noise of the world, by our own doubts and fears?
Well, it takes practice. It's
Yeah.
about cultivating stillness, about creating space for those whispers to become audible.
So meditation, spending time in nature, journaling, those kinds of things.
Exactly. Practices that help us to slow down, to tune in, to listen to the subtle language of the universe.
It's like we're learning to speak a whole new language, one that doesn't use words but subtles, synchronicities, Those meaningful coincidences that seem to guide us towards our true path.
Precisely. And the more we pay attention, the more fluent we become. But let's talk about those different dimensions for a moment. This idea that these beings exist on a different vibrational frequency, that we're constantly surrounded by these other realms, but can't perceive them with our limited senses. It's mind-blowing.
Right. It's like we're living in this tiny bubble of perception, completely oblivious to the vastness that surrounds us.
And according to Cannon's research, those other realms aren't just empty space. They're teeming with life, with beings who might possess levels of consciousness and technology that we can't even begin to fathom.
It's both exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. Exhilarating because it opens up infinite possibilities, but terrifying because it makes you realize how little we actually know.
Exactly. It's a humbling experience.
Sure.
And it forces us to confront the limitations of our current scientific paradigm, which is so focused on the material world, on what we can see and measure with our instruments.
But what if the most important things, the things that truly matter, what if they're invisible to our physical senses? What if we need a whole new way of seeing, a whole new way of knowing in order to access them?
That's what Cannon is suggesting. She believed that the human mind is capable of so much more than we give it credit for, that within each of us lies the potential to access these other realms, to connect with these other beings, to expand our awareness beyond anything we thought possible.
It's about reclaiming our birthright as multidimensional beings, about realizing that we're not just physical bodies, but souls, spirits, consciousnesses capable of experiencing reality on an entirely different level.
And that's an incredibly empowering thought.
It is. But if we accept that these other dimensions exist, how do we interact with them? How do they interact with us? Are we just passive observers in this cosmic play, or can we actually influence what's happening?
That's the big question, isn't it? And according to Cannon's research, it seems like it's a two-way street. We influence them and they influence us, often in ways we're not even aware of.
Okay, now you're really messing with my head. Give me an example. How do they influence us?
Well, some of the methods are more subtle, like telepathic communication, influencing our thoughts and emotions, or even manipulating our dreams.
So, not exactly the kind of thing you can measure in a lab.
Not quite. But then there are the more direct forms of contact. The UFO sightings, the close encounters, the abductions.
The stuff of science fiction. But according to Cannon's research, it's happening, isn't it?
It seems so. And while these encounters can be incredibly unsettling, even traumatic, Cannon maintains that these beings aren't here to harm us.
But if they're not here to harm us, why all the cloak and dagger? Why not just show themselves, share their knowledge openly, help us evolve? Why the elaborate cosmic game of hide and seek?
Ah, the million-dollar question. And while there are no easy answers, Cannon explores some intriguing possibilities. One is the idea of non-interference. These beings might be bound by a cosmic code of ethics that prevents them from directly interfering in our affairs, even if they see us heading down a self-destructive path.
So they're like the ultimate helicopter parents, watching us make our mistakes, hoping we'll learn from them, but not wanting to swoop in and fix everything for us.
It's an interesting analogy,
Uh,
and it speaks to the importance of free will. They may be offering guidance, subtle nudges in the right direction, but ultimately the choice of how to live, how to evolve, it's ours to make.
we're writing our own cosmic report card, and they're just the observers.
In a way, yes, but their presence, their guidance, it suggests that we're not alone in this journey, that there are forces beyond our comprehension that are rooting for us, guiding us, even if we're not always aware of it.
It's like we're the underdog team that they've been secretly coaching, and they see something special in us, a spark of potential that could change the game entirely.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But like any good coach, they're not going to give us all the answers. They're going to challenge us, push us to our limits, and sometimes even let us fall flat on our faces so that we can learn from our mistakes and come back stronger.
It's not about being perfect. It's about embracing the journey, the ups and downs, the triumphs and the failures, because it's in those messy, unpredictable moments that we truly grow and evolve.
Precisely. And it's about remembering that we're not alone in this cosmic dance. We have these guides, these mentors, these cosmic cheerleaders cheering us on from the sidelines. And maybe, just maybe, we'll even surprise ourselves with what we're capable of achieving.
Now, that's a thought worth pondering. But before we get lost in cosmic possibilities, I want to bring it back down to Earth for a moment. If Cannon's right, if these extraterrestrial encounters are more than just hallucinations or flights of fancy, what does that mean for our everyday lives? How do we integrate these extraordinary experiences into our ordinary routines?
It's a question that many experiencers grapple with, this feeling of living in two worlds. the world of everyday life with its routines and responsibilities, and this other, more expansive reality that they've been exposed to.
It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. How do you reconcile these two seemingly disparate worlds without feeling like you're losing your mind?
It's not easy. Some people try to bury those experiences to pretend they never happened, while others become consumed by them, devoting their lives to understanding and sharing what they've learned. But I think the key is to find that sweet spot, that balance between acknowledging the extraordinary without letting it overshadow the ordinary.
So it's not about becoming an extraterrestrial evangelist, trying to convert everyone to your way of seeing things.
Exactly. It's about honoring your own truth, your own unique journey, while also respecting the perspectives of those who might not be ready or willing to embrace these concepts.
So live your truth, but don't feel the need to shout it from the rooftops.
Exactly. And remember, the journey itself, the exploration of consciousness, the expansion of awareness, that's just as important as any destination we might reach along the way.
Because ultimately, it's not about what we believe, but how we live. It's about approaching life with a sense of wonder, curiosity, and an open heart. And maybe, just maybe, that's the key to unlocking the mysteries of the universe, both within us and all around us. But we've been talking for a while now, so let's take a quick break and we'll be right back for the final part of our deep dive. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Dolores Cannon's The Custodians. We've covered so much ground already, from hidden memories to different dimensions. It's mind-boggling. But there's one more thing I want to touch on before we wrap up.
Okay, sure.
We've talked about how our beliefs might shape our experiences, but what about the opposite? How do these mind-blowing encounters, these glimpses into other realities, how do they change the people who have them?
That's a question that really fascinated Cannon. She saw these experiences as profoundly transformative, often forcing people to completely reevaluate their place in the universe, their understanding of reality itself.
It's like coming back from an incredible journey, but no one believes your stories, right?
Exactly. And it can be incredibly isolating trying to explain these experiences to people who haven't had them, who view the world through a completely different lens. They might even question your sanity, which only makes things more difficult.
So how do these experiencers reconcile these two worlds, the world of their everyday lives and this extraordinary reality they've been exposed to? Do they try to fit back in, or do they embrace a new normal?
There's no one-size-fits-all answer. Some people try to bury these experiences to pretend they never happened. Others become completely absorbed by them, dedicating their lives to understanding and sharing what they've learned.
It's like they've stepped through a doorway to another reality, and now they have to figure out how to navigate both worlds without losing themselves in the process.
Exactly. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's a deeply personal journey. But one thing Cannon observed consistently was this profound shift in perspective. These experiencers often came away with a deep sense of interconnectedness, a reverence for the mystery of existence.
Like they've glimpsed the cosmic tapestry and realized that every thread, every being is woven together in ways we're only beginning to understand.
Precisely. And this realization often translates into a more compassionate, more purposeful way of life. They might become more attuned to synchronicities, more drawn to spiritual practices, or more passionate about making a positive difference in the world.
It's like they've been given a cosmic wake-up call, and they can't go back to sleepwalking through life. But let's address the elephant in the room, the skepticism that often surrounds these accounts. How do we reconcile these incredible stories, these subjective experiences, with the lack of concrete, irrefutable evidence?
It's the ultimate challenge, isn't it? And Cannon doesn't shy away from it. She acknowledges that these experiences often defy our current scientific understanding, that they don't fit neatly into our existing paradigms.
Like trying to measure the ocean's depths with a teaspoon. We might need a whole new set of tools, a whole new way of thinking to even begin to grasp what we're dealing with.
Exactly. And that's where Cannon's emphasis on intuition, on inner knowing, becomes so important. She believed that the human mind is capable of accessing knowledge and experiencing realities that transcend our five senses. But we've been conditioned to distrust our intuition, to dismiss those inner whispers as mere imagination.
So we've essentially silenced our own inner compass, the very tool that could guide us through these uncharted territories.
In a way, yes. And Cannon believed that it's by reclaiming our intuitive abilities, by learning to trust that inner voice, that we can begin to bridge the gap between the seen and the unseen, the known and the unknown.
So it's about cultivating a sense of wonder, a willingness to question everything we think we know, and to embrace the possibility that reality might be far stranger, far more wondrous than we ever dared to imagine.
Absolutely. It's about approaching the unknown with humility, with an open heart and an open mind. Because the most profound truths are often the ones that can't be explained, only experienced.
It's about trusting the mystery, even when it challenges everything we thought we knew. Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into Dolores Cannon's The Custodians. It's been quite a journey.
It has.
We've explored the outer reaches of the cosmos and the inner depths of our own consciousness, and I have a feeling this is just the beginning.
It always is.
If you're intrigued by what you've heard today, and I have a feeling you are, I encourage you to pick up a copy of The Custodians and embark on your own exploration. Who knows what wonders you might uncover along the way. Thanks for joining us on this incredible adventure, and until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep reaching for the stars.